All right, well, welcome everyone to the Coastal Habitat and Water Quality Grants info session. We're really happy to have you join us today to go over this opportunity. I am Adrian Papel, and I manage the Coastal Habitat and Water Quality Program for the Massachusetts Office of Coastal Zone Management. With me, I also have Kathleen Mason, who's a Coastal Habitat and Water Quality Specialist, and Lexi Neffinger, who's also a Coastal Habitat and Water Quality Specialist, that are going to be all working together on these grants. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kathleen, who's going to be leading us in the session today.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining and supporting this grant program and showing your interest. So I'm just going to go over in our agenda, the objectives of the grant, the eligible applicants, eligible projects, program priorities, application tips, logistics, and our timeline. So first, the Coastal Habitat and Water Quality Grant opportunity is meant to support the improvement, protection, and restoration of coastal water quality and habitat throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And so within this, we have these key objectives. The first being remediation of impaired water bodies, including those on Mass DEP's integrated list of water, and ultimately leading to partially or fully restored water body segments. And the improvement and protection of water quality to support our critical ecosystems. That might include fish runs, estuaries, salt marshes, and eelgrass beds. Third, the implementation of green stormwater infrastructure to both manage and treat stormwater sources of non-point source pollution. And building capacity of our Massachusetts communities to assess and remediate water quality impairments within the coastal watershed. The development of comprehensive restoration plans to protect and improve the condition and function of our key habitats. And last, the protection of associated uses and benefits of our waters and habitats within the coastal watershed. So the eligible applicants for our Coastal Habitat and Water Quality Grant include municipalities in the coastal watershed, as well as intermunicipal partnerships. And these municipalities in the coastal watershed include more than 200 different municipalities, and they're outlined here in this image in green. Additionally, eligible applicants include federally recognized and state acknowledged tribes, and then certified nonprofits, regional planning agencies, and stormwater collaboratives in partnership with one of those eligible municipalities. Our eligible projects, we have 5 main categories, and your project might include one or more of these project categories. So quickly, they include efforts to assess, identify, and characterize non-point source pollution impacts from stormwater runoff to our coastal water bodies, the design and construction of stormwater structural best management practices, or BMPs, capacity building activities to support future implementation of green stormwater infrastructure, and the development of habitat restoration plans. And last, the 5th, the advancement of priority land acquisition planning activities. So now I'm going to go through each one of these briefly. So the first was stormwater assessment. So that's the assessment, identification, and characterization of stormwater. And we really focus on the investigation of non-point source pollution, or NPS. And that's specific to stormwater discharges to our eligible water bodies within the coastal watershed. And those water bodies include surface water connections to coastal water bodies, so streams, rivers, coastal ponds, wetlands, estuaries, and marine waters with a direct connection to the Massachusetts coast. And so assessments in this might include physical evaluation of drainage areas, land use characterization, water quality testing at in-stream and outfall locations to identify remediation actions, and the investigation of the appropriate type and placement of stormwater best management practices. The proposal should outline any existing knowledge of the water quality problem and demonstrate a clear basis for the work moving forward. And so that could be any water quality data that has already been collected, records of shellfish bed closures or beach closures, or listings of those water bodies on the Mass DEP integrated list of waters. A second category is best management practice implementation. So this includes new stormwater BMPs and retrofits of existing stormwater BMPs. So our goals here are to treat the contaminants of concern impairing our water quality and receiving waters, as well as increasing the ability of existing infrastructure to improve or protect water quality. And so the requirements under this category are development of an operation and maintenance plan, and they also must be located on municipally owned land, or be in the process of receiving an access easement to that land. Our third category was capacity building. This focuses on building capacity in Massachusetts municipalities to promote implementation of green stormwater infrastructure and ensure long-term maintenance and function. And there are 4 bullets here of which might be included within a project with capacity building. So development or assessment of local stormwater bylaws, ordinances, or standards, green stormwater infrastructure operations and maintenance trainings for municipal staff, different guidance documents or case studies, as well as the development of tools or resources that might later help support the implementation or maintenance of green stormwater infrastructure. The fourth category we have is comprehensive habitat restoration planning. The key word here is comprehensive, to really evaluate and assess all the existing conditions, including stressors to the habitats within the area that you might define, detailing effective and feasible alternatives to support restoration, prioritizing these different opportunities, and compiling them in a restoration plan that might include those short and long-term actions that would lead to restoration. And so the most competitive projects would take a system-wide or watershed level approach to restoration planning over a site level project. And those projects that focus exclusively on coastal resilience will not be competitive within our grant opportunity. Our last category was priority land acquisition planning. So this category is open to eligible applicants with a current comprehensive habitat restoration plan that was completed under previous coastal habitat and water quality grant funding, or those currently being completed under the grant funding as well. So that's important to note, and this is a different category from previous years. And so it's really just to highlight advanced planning and evaluation of potential lands for acquisition. So that might include anything like legal analysis, assessment of the ownership, or prioritization of lands. And it's important to note that we do not acquire the lands themselves, but help with all that planning to lead to future acquisition. All right, so I just highlighted those 5 project categories, and again, noting that your project could include one or more of those different categories. And then within your project, it's great to consider public engagement, education, and outreach, as well as climate resiliency consideration. And these will be the most competitive projects with these 2 things considered. So we really hope to engage community and increase participatory decision-making within your project. And so we hope that you describe community participation and engagement completed previously to inform your project or to be completed within your project scope. And then additionally, public education and outreach activities can be a component of your project within a certain allowable cost. It can't be the entire project scope. And then again, climate resiliency considerations. We're going to look for consideration of the impacts of climate change to your resource area, or how that might affect the design life of your implementation project. So it's important to reference existing and best available data tools, or look at different recommendations from reports like this one, the Assessment of Climate Change Impacts on Stormwater BMPs, which talk about redundancy in your designing and how long the design life is planned for. All right, so we have a few program priorities. And these different priorities actually receive like bonus points within the evaluation. So if your project includes these, you get a few bonus points. And so these include the implementation of a structural stormwater best management practice that was selected or designed through a previous CZM grant, the advanced planning and evaluation of potential lands for acquisitions that was identified in a coastal habitat and water quality funded approved comprehensive restoration plan, projects providing benefits to environmental justice communities, or those that are significant to federally recognized and state acknowledged tribal interests. And lastly, activities that support or protect or improve habitat, water quality, and water bodies for current or historic diadromous fish runs. So I've included a few tips of what might be within a strong application. So that includes clearly stating and detailing measurable goals, really identifying that link to coastal watershed, water quality, habitat uses, or listed impairments, demonstrating tangible benefits to water quality, habitat, and uses within the coastal watershed, identifying logical steps from your problem definition to your solution within your project scope, the inclusion of the identification of stressors and solutions, so taking that comprehensive approach and planning, using existing baseline information and data tools, demonstrated priority with the support of partners. So if it's in partnership with a municipality and a nonprofit, really showing that support from all parties. Identified community engagement, whether that be completed to inform the project or to be completed within your project scope, and the consideration of climate change impacts. And then to make things really clear, we have a list of ineligible activities that are not competitive within our grant program. So these include the remediation of non-stormwater discharges or focus on groundwater sources of pollution, projects that focus solely on erosion, flooding, or coastal shoreline protection. Any activities associated with septic systems, the direct acquisition of lands. Recall that our project category includes planning, advanced planning for the acquisition of lands, not the direct acquisition of lands themselves. The implementation projects constructed on non-public lands or that do not have an access easement. The development of a water quality monitoring program for the purpose of ongoing monitoring. Any scientific, academic studies or development of new tools or models that are redundant to those that already exist. And project elements that are inconsistent with any local, state, and federal regulations and policies. All right, so some logistics of our grant for the year. We have about $2 million in funding, and within our applications that we're going to look at, we generally see an average individual project costs ranging from $50,000 to $850,000. That's really specific to the project type, where your project might land in that range. Match is optional, but it is recommended. And then for how long your project would run, they can fall within a 1 year or 2 year time frame that's following the state fiscal calendar of July 1st to June 30th. Note that our RFR is not yet posted, but when it is, it will be posted on Combis as well as the Coastal Habitat and Water Quality website. And if you checked off in our registration box to also receive an email notification of the release, you'll receive that in your notification of the release in your email too. So because the RFR isn't out yet, we can happily talk with you about project ideas, answer any questions you might have. So feel free to email Adrienne, myself, or Lexi with any questions. So the RFR is expected for the spring. And following that would be a question and answer period where you have 2 weeks to submit any questions to the email that would be referenced in the RFR. And then we compile those questions and answers and post them back for everyone to see. So then applications would be due 5 weeks following the RFR release, awards in about August, and contracting to follow in the August to September timeframe. And again, with that project completion of whether you've selected a 1 year or a 2 year timeframe. So here's our CZM staff that can help you directly. We have Adrian, myself, and Lexi, as mentioned. We also have regional coordinators that are situated in 5 different areas across the coastal watershed that are very experienced and can help you directly. And so you see those here. Additionally, you can reference these folks from Massachusetts Bays and Buzzards Bay National Estuary programs as additional resources. So with that, I think we're going to see if our regional coordinators in the room want to share any hopes for the year or goals within their region. So I think I'm going to stop sharing now.